fellow Territorians. When the coronavirus, this silent, invisible killer, first started to threaten our country and our community, I promised you I will do whatever it takes to protect you. The promise I intend to keep. The threat we are facing is deadly serious. The evidence presented to us at the National Cabinet meeting last night was crystal clear. The spread of this highly contagious disease down south has made this an unprecedented health emergency for our entire country. While the Territory remains the safest place in the country, things are getting worse, not better, down south. This is out of control down there, it is spreading, and we must control it. The evidence elsewhere in Australia has shown us that voluntary social distancing has not worked. Half measures are not helping. We must act so we do not become another Italy or another America or another UK, where the spread is getting wider and the list of the sick and dead is getting longer. The Territory has been ahead of the game so far, and instead of playing catch up like the others, we must stay ahead. That means making tough, gut-wrenching decisions like we did last night. Across the nation, this means temporary closure of licensed clubs, nightclubs, pubs, bars, and the licensed sections of hotels. It includes entertainment venues, casinos and cinemas, gym and indoor sporting venues, religious gatherings and places of worship. Weddings and funerals are exempt, but only for small groups which comply with the existing space requirements. These measures also apply to outdoor spaces associated with these venues. Restaurants and cafes will be restricted to takeaway and delivery services only. Bolos still open. You can still get a beer. God knows we all might need one. For everything else, there are no changes right now. Retail stores still open, but with the existing restrictions that already apply to indoor venues. Shopping centres are open, but do not sit at food courts. And of course, supermarkets will always stay open, always. New directions will be issued under the Public Environmental and Health Act to enact and enforce these new rules. As a starting point, these measures will be in place for 1 month, when they will be reviewed and only relaxed if the threat has subsided. Remote communities are not included in these restrictions, given the strong protections we are already implementing for them. To schools. The advice from the nation's top health experts continues to be that it is safe for schools to stay open. But from tomorrow and for the rest of this term, the decision to send kids to school will be a choice for parents. I know a lot of parents are feeling anxious right now during these times. I trust parents to know what is best for them and their kids. If you want to keep kids at home for the remainder of this term, that's okay. But they have to be at home. If they can't be at home or with you, please send them to school. From term 2, it is my expectation that education will be compulsory again. The Education Department will use this time to make sure there can be flexible arrangements for students to receive their education, whether that's at school or at home. There are a lot of changes happening, and not everyone will agree, but let's all agree that our kids should keep learning. Speaking directly to our teachers, thank you. You are on the front line. Your health is as important to me as our kids. I have asked that your welfare be paramount through all this. We need you, and we need you healthy and well. COVID-19 is doing more damage to our Territory economy than any natural disaster ever has. I talk to business owners every day, and I know how much you are hurting. These new rules are going to hurt. They're going to hurt some people more. I'll talk soon about why we have to do this, why we have no choice. But please know, I am going to do everything I possibly can to help you survive in these unprecedented times. We've released a tourism rescue package. We've released a jobs rescue and recovery package. Through the night, we have been working on more support. the $50 million Small Business Survival Fund. The fund will deliver grants to help keep businesses alive even when they have to shut. An advisory board of business leaders will oversee the fund, chaired by Dick Goit. We will release more detail on the fund this afternoon and in coming days, and I've directed it be open for application from Friday. It has 3 clear goals. First, and most importantly, keeping businesses alive, helping you survive this period so you're still here when things go back to normal. Second, helping businesses adjust and adapt to this new environment, like setting you up online or helping you expand takeaway and delivery services. And just on that, if Territorians want to help but you're not sure how, order some takeaway. I am serious, at least a meal a day from a local joint. If you've got the dough for it, being the best Territorian you can be right now does mean eating takeaway. The third goal is to prepare businesses for the rebound. It will come when this crisis ends. You can come back strong. We will come out the other side of this. Our hospitality and tourism businesses will be at the front line to get money from this fund. The federal government stimulus package announced yesterday will also help Territorians. Small businesses who keep their workers on will get at least $20,000 back in the bank and as much as $100,000. Territorians who lose their job will be able to access income support that is double the usual rate with no assets test and no waiting period. It will help. But just like we're doing more and more, the feds need to do the same. We will keep scaling up to save jobs. The feds need to as well. Even with all of this, I know there'll be some businesses that will close. I know jobs will be lost. I feel sick about that. I have agonized over these decisions, and I know a lot of people will be asking, why is all of this needed up here when the problem isn't as bad up here? I think that is a fair question, and let me give you a thorough answer. My big fear, the thing that is keeping me up at night, is that the coronavirus wave is coming to the Territory. I hope that securing our borders will be enough to stop it, and it will help, but it won't be enough. It's clear extreme action is needed to keep us safe. We know the coronavirus is already here. We don't have community spread, but neither did anywhere else in Australia until they suddenly did. In every part of Australia, in every part of the world, it all started somewhere with one case. So please do not think the Territory is immune from the worst effects of the coronavirus. We are not. If this hits us hard, it will be devastating. If you're asking if these measures go too far, I'd like you to do something for me if you can. Google coronavirus and Italy and spend 5 minutes looking through the pictures and the videos. See the sick and dying lying up in hospital hallways and then think, that could be mum, it could be dad, it could be your brother, your sister, your colleague, your mate, it could be your son or your daughter, it could be you, it could be me. Till now, we have been the safest place in Australia, and I am going to keep it that way. The states down south might be able to let the virus get out of control before acting. Up here, we do not have the luxury of waiting for it to get worse. Our size is too small, our population too vulnerable. The risk too great, the cost too high. Maybe this hits home for me more than most. A few months ago, I was the one lying on a hospital bed in the ED. Extraordinary doctors and nurses saved my life. I thank God for them, I thank God for the Royal Darwin Hospital, and I thank God for everyone that works there. I was lucky. Great Territory healthcare workers were there for me, to care for me and to save me. If I had presented in the middle of a coronavirus outbreak, it might have been a different story. So everything we are doing, every one of these hard decisions, is to prevent that outbreak, that nightmare from happening here. We do not know everything about this virus, but we know this. The only thing that's been properly effective anywhere in the world is partly shutting down sections of society where the risk is greatest. It's the only thing that's really saved lives. No government has regretted going full bore to stop this virus. Almost every government has regretted doing too little and waiting too long. I don't want us to have the same regrets. I know this is a lot to take in. I know these decisions will cause pain for people. I expect there will be Territorians who do not support this and who will never forgive me for it. But I didn't make these hard choices. If I didn't make these hard choices to save lives, I could never forgive myself. People's lives are on the line. That's what has to come first. This is not the end. In coming days, I'll have to ask even more of you. Things will get harder before they get easier. Eventually, they will get easier. This crisis will not break us. We will not let it break us. We are all in this together. We are all on Team Territory. Thank you.
Chief Minister, with people's lives so severely affected, are you worried down the track with and people out of jobs, all the effects on the economy, that there's going to be social disorder in the NT and a breakdown in people's behaviour?
At this stage, no. What I am worried about is people's mental health and well-being. And one of the first things that's been raised to me on almost every occasion, when I've talked to businesses, particularly advocacy, like Chamber of Commerce, Hospitality NT, the list goes on. The first thing they've raised with me has been mental health and well-being. And then the second has been stimulus or cash or help around survival. We are worried about that, and we have got services in place, and I am in consultation and working about how we might be able to expand that. But at the moment, I'm not worried about civil disorder. I'm worried about survival, actions to prevent this, and keeping people alive.
Chief
There's
Minister,
10
Chief Minister,
flights.
Let's just look on the bright side for a second instead of looking on the dark side.
Yes.
If these measures are successful and we manage to keep coronavirus out, could there be a silver lining here? Maybe people would come into state, do the 14 days, rent houses. There's maybe some opportunities here for us to boost our economy in ways we didn't anticipate.
I think that is a perfectly viable option, and it's something that I have discussed and talked to others about. I think people may choose to do that. Come, isolate for the 14 days and stay. Speaking for the top end, we're about to go into the dry season. There's probably nowhere better to spend this time at the moment than the Territory, and we are safe. So, as I said the other day, as long as you are prepared, do whatever it takes to keep Territorians safe like I do, you are welcome, and the Territory is magnificent.
There's 10 flights arriving from interstate today. Should all the people coming off those flights, and some of them are absolutely packed, self-isolate from now? Because that's potentially 2,000 people coming from interstate dispersing throughout our community.
So the advice is right now, if you are not feeling well, stay home. Be kind and respectful of each other. And if you've come from overseas, there is a clear instruction around that 14-day isolation. From tomorrow at 4 o'clock, you will be compelled to do that. All I can do today is ask you to do the right thing by your fellow Territorian.
Should we step that up though? Should we do it now? 2,000 people from states where it's really, as you say, out of control. Should we really say, the measures don't officially come in tomorrow, but actually let's just take a precaution?
I can ask, I can compel from tomorrow. And all three states, so Territory, WA and SA, are all working towards essentially the same timeline around that enforcement. So WA and SA come in the same time as us. So I think that's a genuine reflection of the practical nature of this. Again, like everything we've done so far, we're asking people to behave themselves, be kind to each other, and follow those guidelines. And so these measures we've done around cafes, pubs, clubs, everything like that is to protect Territorians. If you're coming from interstate, think about that, think about yourself, think about what you might be bringing. Take care of each other.
Sounds like shutting schools is now a real option. How big an impact do you see that having on the health system and health workers here, and what steps are you putting in place to ensure that the health system's affected as little as possible by those potential closures?
We're working on contingency plans for our workforce, which we'll advise if we need to. At this stage, I don't think we do. I think we're working well, but if you're out there and you're worried, we have got plans in place that we will trigger if we need to look after your kids. And it's not just the health workers, there's lots of people working in the front line right now. I have surged everybody in the Department of Business into the Small Business Champions unit. I've directed them, like I did last week, around the 100 people rule, to talk to every small business they can about these rules today, to personally reach out and talk to everybody. I know just one story from a small business champion yesterday. They were talking to a baker who's about to let their apprentice go, and the federal government has a package in place for apprentices, and we were able to save that apprentice and his job by reaching out. There's a lot of information out there right now. Not everyone's consuming it all. There's a lot that's impacting on businesses and they're not aware of everything that is available. I said to the Small Business Champion unit, which is multiplying every day, you need to do everything you can to make sure businesses know what's on the table and we can help them.
You've encouraged people to go out and buy takeaway meals, and you've offered stimulus help to tradies and others. Will you, in another stimulus, offer incentives so that people perhaps can get a voucher to buy a takeaway meal in the future?
Well, I think this package today goes a long way towards addressing those concerns from people in those sectors about how we help them directly. We are taking advice around other things that we can do that we can consider and scale up. But as anything, I've got to make sure the administrative burden is not high and that it can be a trusted scheme and not ripped off. So I will take all advice and consider everything that we have in front of us to make sure it works. But that bucket announced today will go a long way towards addressing the concerns that I've received from tourism, retail, hospitality, etc., about how they get through this. There's a lot of people out there with fixed costs and now not seeing an income stream, and we've got to make sure we look after them.
These measures that have come in force in light of the National Cabinet meeting are significant by Australian standards, but in comparison to what, say, China was doing at the height of its outbreak, not actually that severe. A number of medical experts, for example, have said, look, really to control the spread of this virus and bring it to an end, you need to search out the cases, which means far more testing and far more supervision. To this point, you've said that we need to limit our use of tests. How much further do you think we may need to go? And is it fair to say at the present time we are constrained in our use of testing by the availability of tests and not by the best medical advice?
I will take all the testing advice from the Chief Medical Officer who's working through that with Chief Health Officers, and that includes resource allocation. So for me, that's something I'll take based off the health advice and doing what we can with what we've got, and that's where we're at.
The
Chief
Health
Minister, you
Minister
were quite
says that
emotional just before, obviously reflecting back on your heart surgery. How scared are you, and do you think the message is getting out there to Territorians of how severe this is?
Maybe I can tell a personal story. My wife is in the vulnerable category. She's allowed to go in the vulnerable hour shopping. We have a protocol when I go home about how I change and enter the house to make sure I'm not bringing coronavirus home. I think all of us need to be mindful and thinking through what it is we do and how we do it. We have seen the evidence overseas about the impact of this virus, and let's just do everything we can to look after our fellow Territorian to be the best Territorian we can be. One reason why we're doing what we're doing today is because of some dickheads at Bondi. Let's just think this through. Like, we saw a lot of people not being compliant, and we've had to take further actions. Be thoughtful of each other. We're not asking much. What we're saying is, in some respects, quite easy to do, and doing it will save a life. The Prime Minister last night, I think every Premier and Chief Minister today is saying to you, be respectful of each other, be mindful of distance, wash your hands. We're not asking of much, and that thing that we're asking you to do will save a life.
There's
The
only
Health Minister is
5
saying that
cases in the
there's-
Northern Territory. 2 of those came off the Ruby Diamond Princess in New South Wales, where there have been serious concerns raised about whether they should have been let off. I mean, how disappointed are you with the New South Wales government that we've potentially been put at risk by their failure to do the right thing?
I don't want to get into the arguments that occurred between the New South Wales government and Border Force, and I don't know the details of that interaction. I can talk to our experience when we had a cruise ship come in with notice from Border Force, and I directed that everyone on that cruise ship either stays on the cruise ship or is escorted to the airport, as they're allowed to under the international rule at the moment, to then isolate in their home port, and Border Force complied with that direction. So I can speak for the Territory experience. I'm not... It's
So should
clear...
New South Wales have done the same thing?
Well, there's an argument in New South Wales about how that was handled. I don't know all the details, so I don't want to comment on Premier Berejiklian or the Border Force and how they handle that. I can only talk to the Territory experience, and I do not want to be someone who gets involved in a southern interaction that I'm not fully briefed on. That's between them and Border Force.
Was
The
there a
Health
break?
Minister has said that there's currently 18 beds available in the Territory. How many are you going to be able to scale that up to? That's in Darwin, that are available at the moment. How quickly are you going to be able to scale that up to how many beds available here?
So we're quite capable of surging up as needed. I think the Health Minister has spoken about this before, and we obviously have health officials out again later today. I have been absolutely reassured about our ability to scale up, our ability to work with the National Critical Care and Trauma Centre, which is based here, which also has an ability to scale up. And obviously, we also have significant defence resources in the Northern Territory, and the Prime Minister and others have said they're available for us as well. So we have the ability to scale up. But I think this is an important but, what we're doing, these measures we're taking, and so far they are working in the Territory, is to make sure we don't need to scale up. So I am doing what it takes to make sure Territorians are not in ICU from coronavirus. We're doing everything we can to prevent that moment from happening. That's why we're taking these tough actions, and we are ahead of the curve for several reasons. One, because we put our hand up and helped our fellow Australians at Impex Workers Village and saw this firsthand and were able to prepare. And two, learning the lessons from down south and the measures we're putting in place ahead of what they've done or their experience is going to help us here.
Is some people are taking their time to get back to family because of the strict measures that are being put in place? A lot of those people are going by motor vehicles. Does the time that they're travelling count towards the isolation that they have to go through once they cross the border, or is it just a strict 14 days once they cross over?
It is at sea. Your time at sea is considered as part of your 14 days. That's one of the final details we're working through before the paperwork is released tomorrow. We're in essentially final negotiations around the detail now with some stakeholders about how that border movement works. We're in a much more complicated situation than Tassie, and obviously now WA and SA have joined us, which is great, about how we handle some of that movement across land borders. Some very practical examples have been put forward about things you need to manage, and we're working that through. I'll get that final paperwork today, review it today, and it'll either be available later tonight or tomorrow morning for how that will work.
Will the treaty stimulus be redundant now? You know, are you really expecting anybody will use, have treaties in to build extensions or verandas or whatever, given the restrictions that we now really need?
The advice nationally to us, still from the Federal Secretary of Treasury and others, has been around screwdriver-ready projects, things that are ready to go, and getting that money flowing through the economy. I believe those projects can be managed within our protocols, and that will be the question to everybody, is about managing that within the protocols. I think that's a very clear and upfront request. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that, and that can be done, I believe, safely. And so far, on the advice I received, is happening that way.
If in a month's time we've managed to...
Just back on the anti-border restrictions, we know that remote police numbers have already been pretty strained. So where exactly are you going to be sourcing those police to be doing those patrols in?
So obviously a question to the police is around resourcing. Police say they've got the resources to do this. We are also having positive conversations with the Australian Federal Police and the Australian Defence Force. I've had positive conversations federally, not just with the Prime Minister, he tasked Minister Wyatt, and we've had a conversation about those resources being available as well. So we will have more to pull upon. Since we made our announcement, WA and SA have also joined us. They've now got resources on these routes as well. So we've now got 3 bodies involved, plus the feds doing this, which is a significant increase in resources when we made this announcement on the Saturday.
If in a month's time we haven't seen a drastic increase here in the number of cases, is there any chance that those businesses that have had to close today will be able to reopen again, or should they expect to be shut for the long term, 6 months or more?
So we have to move nationally, and I think this is really important. One reason why I'm on the National Cabinet is to make sure we all stay in, we all stay tough, and we all stay together. We can't afford to have a state pull out like a Queensland or New South Wales, Victoria. I'm not flagging that they have, by the way. I'm just saying that we all need to be in. But let me be clear about how seriously I take the decision last night. Yesterday we met as a cabinet to consider how we scale it up, and I got cabinet support for a $5 million small business survival package. Last night we met as a national cabinet. This morning I reconvened our cabinet and I said I need an extra $0. This is a big decision. And so we went from a $5 million package to a $50 million package. That's how serious the decision was. That's how serious we take it. That's how quickly these things are moving. We have to make sure we stay ahead of this. I'll make sure we stay ahead of this. And while saving lives is what's leading our decision making, saving jobs has to follow quickly, because that's where the impact is hitting.
We saw Victoria yesterday effectively go it alone on the schools issue. They announced before that National Cabinet last night that they'd be closing schools. Would you also be willing to go it alone on something if you thought it was in the best interests of the Northern Territory?
I found the National Cabinet process to be important, and I'll give you an example. I raised the issue of our borders at National Cabinet. I got it referred down to the National Coordinating Mechanism, which is where all these state officials work together about how we do this practically. I then wrote to my fellow premiers, border state premiers, WA, SA and Queensland, about our cross-border policing arrangement, how we work together. I then spoke with every premier as well, not just relied on a formal letter. We then discussed it in National Cabinet. I briefed everybody about what I was doing and what we're doing in remote communities in general. I then was able to go in on that Saturday, having everyone fully informed, having done the work that was required to be able to make an announcement, knowing that WA and SA could in confidence do their own planning as well about what we were doing. I found this to be an excellent mechanism to ensure coordination between the states, and I thank WA, SA and Queensland for their support and their help. I thank Tasmania for sharing what work that they had done. I thank the Prime Minister for his leadership, and personally, the National Cabinet process is crucial to making sure we act in a unified way that leads to every Australian being safe, and I fully support it. I fully support the Prime Minister leading it, and I'm grateful for the fact we have it.
So
What's
we've
your
asked you-
information on the supplies of groceries to the territory? Because the IGA Darwin store manager said yesterday that he is being told by suppliers that what he can get in is less than what he would normally buy every week. Are you in touch with Coles and Woolies here locally, and what have they said to you and other grocery suppliers?
So the Territory Controller has been talking to everyone involved in our supply chains about guaranteeing food security for the urban centres, but also making sure that everyone in a community has access to food. I think that's crucial. We have put in place special protections for our remote communities, and we have to make sure that we've got food for them, and that is an absolute priority. I give that guarantee that we're doing that through the Territory Controller and the Territory Emergency Management Centre, that we are managing that, and I am confident on all the answers I have around food security, but I think I've made it pretty clear we'll do whatever it takes to guarantee food for Territorians, or I'll do whatever it takes, full stop. That includes food for Territorians.
Chief
and the
Minister,
minute
sorry,
has
Chief
Parliament
Minister,
changed.
how confident can you be, or are you confident that the measures you've put in place now will prevent community transmission occurring in the territory? And if you're not confident, and it is as devastating as you say, to have community transmission, shouldn't you be going further?
I believe what we've done today will significantly reduce the risk. I think any leader who stood up and said, I guarantee that this will stop X, will be misleading their people, in this instance Territorians. I'm doing whatever it takes to prevent this. I'm learning the lessons from down south. We are staying ahead of it, we're surfing the wave, and we will keep doing that, and I'll keep doing whatever it takes to make sure Territorians are safe, and we will keep scaling up both our health and economic responses.
Last one.
Last one.
Should leadership really come from the leaders, though? I mean, to say really, parents can decide, whether they hold their kids back from schools or, not to do it officially till Tuesday. I mean, really, people need really clear messages at these times that are unequivocal, don't they?
I don't think we ever need more leaders. We need everyone right now to lead by example. I think all of us are making that clear. As Chief Minister, I can stand here and tell you what we're doing, but what I'm doing requires Territorians to buy in. It does. It requires you to buy in. It requires you to be thoughtful of your fellow Territorians. So I will say what we're going to do, and I will do what I can, and everything that I've directed our public service will happen. But I need you to be part of this. I need you to be part of the solution. And if every Territorian buys in, and we've seen them do it before, we've seen the Territory spirit before through disaster, if every Territorian buys in, we will get through this. And I thank you in advance for your leadership. All right, thank you.